All right, welcome to a special edition of Howling with the Wolf, everybody. Here in my den area, setting up for draft day, one of my favorite days of the year. Felt like this was a perfect time to get on and chat with you guys about the NFL draft, the drama, and the Dolphins. I think this has been probably the most interesting draft that I can remember as a reporter going into so much unknown. The coronavirus and everybody kind of being a virtual draft adds another dimension to it. And then obviously for Dolphins fans, your franchise is going to change today one way or the other. So I just feel like there's so much to discuss. I've written a lot about this on ESPN.com. I've tweeted about it over the last month. If you guys want to read anything I wrote, I did a 4-piece profile on the quarterbacks, and most recently this week I did a 7 burning questions about things you need to know about the Dolphins going into the draft. So those are must reads for Dolphins fans to get the info that you need. But I'm here today to kind of give you my thoughts, my kind of perspective at this point about the draft and what could potentially be happening today. And from there, we can talk some football. So I think everything starts obviously with the number 5 pick. There's been a lot of reports. There's been a lot of talk over the last, what has it been, really month or two about what the Dolphins are going to do at that position. Are they going to go with Justin Herbert? Are they going to go with a Tua Tagovailoa? I will tell you up front, I do not know for sure what the Dolphins are going to do. And I think that anybody who tells you they know who for sure what the Dolphins are going to do aren't being truthful. This is a very tight front office. Um, Hold on one second, guys. Let me read. All right. Hold on one second, guys. Come right back to you. I lost my Twitter audience. Streaming on both Facebook and Twitter, and I lost my Twitter audience. Stopped on me, so let me resend that out, and then we can continue chatting. All right, there we go. Yeah, like I was saying, I think that this draft, I can't tell you for sure. Like if you're looking to say, hey, they're drafting Tua or they're drafting Herbert, I can't tell you with certainty what exactly the Dolphins are going to do. But I will tell you that I think that they're going to be they are the most interesting team in the draft, and I think they're going to be the talk of the draft by the end of it, based on what they do or they don't do. I have put out my mock draft. We had our NFL Nation mock draft um, on Tuesday, and I made my pick. And at number 5, I picked Tua Tagovailoa, and I still believe that's their guy. I could be wrong, um, and ultimately we're gonna see in about 5 or 6 hours. But I believe that when you look at what you have to do to rebuild a franchise at number 5, I would be surprised if they don't go quarterback. And when you look at the quarterbacks that fit, ultimately what Brian Flores, what Chris Greer, what they say they want, you look at a guy that and Tua, and it seems to add up. So um, that's where my early thoughts are. But I wouldn't be surprised at anything outside of maybe a trade up for a tackle. I saw that come out recently in a report, and I don't want to knock it, but I think I would be surprised to see them trade up for a tackle. It just wouldn't make sense to me. So those are kind of my initial thoughts on that. Um, I think I spelled Dolphins wrong when I put this on Twitter, so not Dolphins, Dolphins. I've already restarted once, so I'm not going to resend again. But yeah, man, if you guys have any questions, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter, I'm happy to answer. I sent out a tweet on my 7-round mock drafts uh, today, my last ones. I did one with trades and then one based off the picks that I did in the NFL Nation mock draft. Started off with Tua, went to Austin Jackson, and then went to AJ Epinesa. Someone asked me, a lot of people asked me about Austin Jackson, if that's too early, if that's a reach. I'm going to tell you what, I think that there's going to be a lot of offensive linemen coming off this board quicker than you think. And I think the Dolphins like Austin Jackson. I know they prefer one of the big four. I believe they're big fans of Andrew Thomas. I think they like Jedrick Willis, and even Tristan Wirfs and Mekhi Becton. I think any of those four players they would love to get, but the problem is I don't think any of them are going to be at 18. And if you take one at 5, then you probably miss out on Tua and Herbert as your quarterback. So that's really the difficult portion there. I could see them trading up for 18 if they ended up taking a quarterback at 5. But if they end up staying put, then they're probably going to be choosing from that second tier of a Austin Jackson over Josh Jones, over Ezra Cleveland, Isaiah Wilson, Cesar Ruiz, the center out of Michigan. So, whatever combination of guys you want to pick out there. In one of my mock drafts, I ended up giving them Austin Jackson and Isaiah Wilson and Austin Jackson. And the other one, I think I ended up with trading up for Mekhi Becton and then giving them Cesar Ruiz as well. So either way, I think they end up with multiple offensive linemen in the first 2 days of the draft. Whether it's double up in the first round, get one in the first round, one in the second, one in the first round, one in the third. They have a lot of needs, but offensive line and quarterback are at the front of them. So that's kind of things that I heavily believe. I heavily believe they're going to get a quarterback today with their first pick. I still believe that. I could see them, if they want to roll the dice and maybe they really love Jordan Love and, they've been playing the smokescreen game really well and they want to take a tackle there and wait for Jordan Love at 18. I guess that's a possibility. But for me, I still think it's a guy at 5. And I think the tackle, maybe you trade up for him at 18. And then at 26, you take a BPA, maybe a guy like Epinesa if you want him. Maybe another offensive lineman, maybe a running back. People talk about that. Maybe a safety. There's a lot of different roles they can get, but they have a lot of picks, and I think they want to use them. So that's kind of my initial thoughts on that. Cody Cox. Let's go ahead and go to some questions. Cody Cox said, why not take a risk on Tua if he doesn't work out next year, you draft another? You're preaching to the choir. I'm in the front row of the Scared Money Don't Make Money committee. If you saw my video on ESPN on SportsCenter the other day, that was one of my lines going into the NFL Nation pick, which I picked Tua. Scared money don't make money, and I'm a true believer of that. And obviously, it's not my job. I'm not Chris Greer. I don't have to worry if I get this quarterback wrong that I'm going to lose my job. But I think that the talent that Tua has is a bigger risk passing on that talent than to pass on the injuries. We can't project exactly what's going to happen in the future. So that's my thought on that. And I think that, we're going to see if the Dolphins had that same perspective, if they're willing to take that risk. I've been told by a lot of people that, expect teams to take more singles and doubles in this draft rather than home runs because of the coronavirus, because of the lack of information. That's something that I used in the story earlier this week. Mike Tannenbaum, the former Dolphins executive VP of football operations, who now works for ESPN, said that to me. A lot of, I've heard that from a scout. I've heard that from a personnel guy. And I believe that, but ultimately I think quarterback is a position that you can't settle on. You can't say, hey, I'm hit a single at quarterback. I just don't see that as a position. Maybe at tackle, you can say, hey, I can get a solid guy rather than a Hall of Fame guy who's boom or bust. Quarterback, I think you got to swing that bat. You can't leave it on your shoulder. So that's just my take on it. I got a question here from James Barr saying, do you see the Fins making 3 selections in the first round? I do. I do think they want to keep all 3 first-round picks. Obviously, if they trade up to number 3, no matter who they trade up for, then possibly that number 26 pick goes in that trade. Maybe 39 is the pick that goes through. But I do think they would love to make 3 picks. This team has a lot of needs. If you watched last season, you saw they had a lot of needs. But I think that this is a foundation draft. We talked to Chris Greer in his pre-draft press conference last week, and he essentially confirmed, one of the writers, Armando, asked him if he had to hit a home run in this draft. And he said, yeah, absolutely. This is the foundation of this draft. So he knows he has to get this right, and getting it right means that you have to have multiple swings of the bat. So I do think they end up taking 3 players tonight. Let's see. I got a question here from Three Teamer. Do you see the Dolphins taking a running back with that third first round pick instead of Epinesa? Yeah, I mean everything's possible. I know that they've done a lot of homework at the top of that running back class, and I think they'll take one. I'm actually pretty sure that they'll take one at the start of the in day one or day two. I think that they like J.K. Dobbins. They brought him out to the facility to work him out. If I had to handicap it, I would say that maybe he's the most likely of the backs to end up in Miami. Just kind of like an educated guess. He's probably a guy you can get at 39. Maybe you can wait to 56 and see if he's there. I think what you got five backs in my opinion that are all guys who can be starting caliber backs as early as year one and definitely by year two. And DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jonathan Taylor and Cam Akers. I think people sleep on Cam Akers because he didn't have the stats behind a terrible Florida State offensive line. But I know the Dolphins are high on him, and I think he's a guy maybe you get in the early third round who can help you. So one of those five backs, I think there's a good chance that one of them end up in Miami. So that's just my thought. As far as a first round running back, I mean, everybody's got their different perspective on value. Um, I don't believe that the Dolphins and NFL teams are going to spend a lot of value on picking a running back in the first round. There might be one tonight, but I also wouldn't be shocked if there's none. So I think the second round or maybe early third round is more likely. But would I be surprised to see them at 26 taking Dobbins or Swift? No, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't count on it. So yes. Let's see. My guy Teron Davenport covers the Titans for ESPN. Followed me out there in Nashville. Really, really good stuff. Titans fans, if you're watching and you don't follow Teron, what are you doing? But he has a question for me about what about fellow U of H product Josh Jones at 26. Josh Jones is an offensive tackle, and I think that he's definitely gonna be under consideration. I actually consider him in the mock draft going at 18. I think he ended up going 22 to the Minnesota Vikings in our mock, and I think he ends up somewhere in that range. In the late teens to maybe 20s range. So I don't know how much the Dolphins love him. I would love to have another Cougar in the locker room. So I actually like Josh Jones better than Austin Jackson, the guy that I projected to them to 18. But it's not my draft; it's the Dolphins draft. So I think that some people are worried that he may be a guard at the next level. I think he can play tackle, but we'll see. He's a guy who had a really good Senior Bowl week. He's still a little raw. A lot of the second tier tackles are raw. Him, Austin Jackson, Isaiah Wilson. These are all guys who may struggle in year one, but you hope that long term you get a guy that can be a starter. So I definitely think that if they took him at 26, it'd be a smart pick in my opinion. I just don't know if it'll happen. Um, let's see. Matt Crow said I should have stayed with the Titans because the Dolphins aren't doing well. You got Teron out there covering the Titans, man. I'm out here in Miami. Dolphins trying to come up. We'll see. We'll see. The Titans definitely were a lot better team last year. I got out there in Nashville for the AFC Championship game. It was good to the AFC Championship week, and it was good to see all the fan base going crazy with the team having so much success. But Dolphins fans waiting for it to turn around. We'll see. Luis Velasquez says, besides Chase Young, who do you have as the best player in this draft? Good question. Good question. I think that Derek Brown from Auburn is going to go higher than a lot of people think. I think that he's a really, really good player. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going to 3 to Detroit if they don't end up trading that pick down to Miami or otherwise. I think that he's definitely in contention. And honestly, I put Joe Burrow, and if Tua wasn't hurt, I'd put him up there too. So I'd say those are probably my top 4 prospects in this draft. Isaiah Simmons is also a really good player. He's gonna have to go to a defense that really knows how to use him. I'm a little worried because there's a lot of NFL teams that might draft him because it sounds nice, but they're not how to know how to use them correctly, and then you end up wasting the pick. So I think if he ends up to a really smart and innovative defensive coach, then he's gonna be a Pro Bowl player. But if not, he's gonna look like a tweener that's in between positions. So I actually wouldn't be surprised to see Isaiah Simmons drop a few spots tonight. Just kind of from what I heard, but we'll see. Um, let's see. Three teamers saying Austin Jackson's a baller. You're one of the few Austin Jackson fans. I made that pick on ESPN, and I got a lot of people on social media not liking it. I'm like, man, I mean, I'm just giving my best thoughts on what I think is gonna happen. So we'll see. Um, let's see. Appreciate you, Cody Cox. Um, let's see. Mello and Cody Cox are both saying something similar, saying, "Do you think that this is the best smokescreen job ever done by a franchise?" I think I wrote this story in February, and it's funny because I've got so many different radio calls, and everybody's always asking me about the newest rumor. Do you think the Dolphins are going to get Justin Herbert? Do you think they're going to trade up for Joe Burrow? That was one of the rumors. Do you think they're going to trade up for a tackle? Do you think? And every day there's something different. And I wrote in February that how the Dolphins handle smokescreen season will determine, how the early portion of the draft goes for them. And boy, have they knocked this out the park. Even today, we're hearing reports from all different sides. I heard analysts say they feel like Dolphins are telling people that they love Herbert. Heard reports where people are telling them that the Tua is their guy. That they're taking a tackle at 5. They're trading up for a 5. Like, nobody legitimately knows. And I have my reporting and what people have told me, but even through that, I've been told different things. So it comes down to this: whenever the smoke screens settle, what do you think is truest to the team and what they want? And that's why I picked Tua. I think that's truest to what they are and what they want from a franchise. Now, how they feel about the medicals, that's something that I don't know. I do think that they got a good evaluation. They probably would have wanted more, but I believe that Tua is more of their guy, their type of quarterback than Herbert. But we'll see. But to your point, smokescreen job was absolutely phenomenal. Um, Catherine Barner, my mom's. Let's see. Where do you think Jalen Hurts goes in the draft? Jalen Hurts, I saw, who was that? Who had that? My guy, Jeff Legwald, who works for ESPN covering the Broncos, has a list he does every year called the Leggy 100, where he asks scouts and different people across the league about prospects and create essentially a big board. And he had Jalen Hurts as quarterback 3 behind Burrow and Tua, and that's the highest I've seen him. But I thought it was eye opening. That some people outside of the in leagues and different teams think highly of Jalen Hurts, and I've heard the Dak Prescott comparison made. I think he goes round 2. I don't know if he gets out of that second round. Some teams are going to feel like that they can use him, and if they put him in the correct offense and really focus on what his strengths are rather than focusing on what his weaknesses are, I think they feel like that's going to be a boost for them, and they can develop him as a quarterback, and maybe in a couple years he can be a starter down the line. So I could see him definitely going round 2. Luis Velasquez said, "My daughter will be attending U of H next year. Proud dad. Congrats, man. Congrats." For some of you guys, probably a lot of you guys know, I got a baby girl on the way. My wife and I are expecting in September, and hopefully she goes to the best school in the country as well, U of H. That's where me and my wife went. So my little brother actually goes to U of H now. He is a sophomore in U of H, so maybe they'll end up meeting each other. So let's see. I have a couple more questions here. Let me move along and get to some of you guys' questions. I'm going to run out of here probably in about 5 or 10 minutes, but I definitely wanted to answer some of these questions for you guys. What's the percentage chance of top 4 tackles available at 18? I'd say very low. I mean, maybe a guy like Becton falls because people, worried he got popped for a diluted sample on a drug test. May have been smoking some weed. Come on. I mean, it's legal these days. I don't know if that's enough to drop a guy. He's also a bigger dude. I think he's about 360, 370 pounds. So he might only fit for certain schemes. But other than that, I mean, I just don't really see a guy falling. Like, this is a draft where I was told to expect a lot of bigger dudes to go in the first round. It'll be more of a meat and potatoes draft because that's more of a reliable indication of what, a prospect can be. So I think that that's something that you may, see a lot of. So let's see. I got a question. What would be the perfect draft? In my opinion, I think it would be taking Tua at 5, staying there, trading up for one of the big four offensive tackles, whether that's up to 10 where Cleveland is or up to 13 where San Fran is, and getting one of those guys. And then either sitting at 26 and taking your BPA. In my draft, it was AJ Epinesa, and I like him as a player, but if they wanted to go a different route, I don't think there's an issue with that. Um, I think or trading back might be also something if you want to gather back another mid-round pick and take a guy like an Antoine Winfield or a Cesar Ruiz, or even a running back. If you want to take J.K. Dobbins or DeAndre Swift. So I think that might be the perfect early portion, in my opinion, of the draft. Uh, let's see. What's your good luck meal for the draft? I think my wife is cooking chicken thighs tonight. She's gonna marinate some chicken thighs. Not sure exactly what she's doing. I don't know if that's a good luck meal or just what we decided to do tonight. I don't really have a good luck meal. This is actually the first draft that I'll be home watching since I graduated college, which is 5 years ago. So I usually am up at the facility, where they're drafting, and they usually feed us there. So this will be different, for sure. I'll have to get prepped for a lot of different things. So it's going to be unique experience for me too. Let's see. Um, yeah, yeah. Let's see. James Barr says, "Do you think Miami will draft a safety or keep McCain at safety?" I'm actually a believer that they take a safety. If you read my burning stories, this week, I had I had my burning questions this week. I had safety as their most underrated need, and I believe that McCain is the best fit as a slot corner. So if you put him at slot corner, and you get a rookie like a Antoine Winfield Jr. or a Xavier McKinney or a Grant Delpit or Ashton Davis, who's one of my favorites, who I think you can get at 56. I think you can move Bobby McCain to slot corner, and then you've got a secondary with you know your rookie, whichever highly thought after rookie, and Eric Rowe at safety, and then you got Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, and Bobby McCain as your top three corners. It's a great trio, and then you had Nick Needham, who showed a lot of potential, who could be your dime guy, your fourth guy. And I think immediately secondary becomes the strongest position on your team if you do that. So that's the way I see it. I know that Brian Flores really has a lot of importance on the free safety position, the role that Minka probably still should be playing, but communication is important with him. So whoever they end up drafting, I think you're going to see a guy who's a really good communicator and a leader, because I think he wants that position to be the leader of their defense. So that's something that to look for. Who are the guys who can wear the sticker on their hat and lead the defense? Um, let's see. What do you think of Tua's ability to make second and third reads? I'm gonna go through some of these quickly, to get everybody's answered, and then I'm gonna hop off here in a little bit and start getting ready, eat lunch and start getting ready for the draft. But I think that Tua, I think his anticipation, his knowledge of defenses is very strong. I watched probably 4 of his games this past year, and then 3 of his games the year before, and the national championship game his freshman year, and I saw a lot of comfort. For a freshman quarterback, he looked completely comfortable in his reads and going through where he was. And people will talk about his receivers, and yes, he had Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs and Devontae Smith, and a lot of guys who are going to be first round talents. But I think that his feel in the pocket and his knowing where guys are going to be. I saw a play where his first read was to the flat, and then he had a guy running a wheel, and then he looked on the other side of the field, evaded pressure, and hit that guy in under 3 seconds for a touchdown. And it was Jerry Jeudy in the back of the end zone. So I think that sums up his second and third reads. Yes, they had an RPO offense, which a lot of it was quick twitch, but I think that he had a very strong ability to get to his second and third reads. So I would be comfortable with him in that perspective. Christo saying, would Tua go number one if he didn't have injury history? In my opinion, he was. He would. If you remember right, tank for Tua was the phrase all through the offseason. He was the guy. Joe Burrow came out of nowhere. I think at the very least, if Tua didn't have durability and injury questions, he would be neck and neck with Burrow, and Cincinnati would have a decision to make. So that's my opinion on that. Um, do you believe the trade up rumors for an OT? Lexo is asking that. I answered this at the top, but I'll answer it again. I don't want to speculate on anybody else's reports because they could very well be right. I just would be really surprised if their decision, their first pick, and what is deemed the most important draft in franchise history, in my opinion, would be to trade up for an offensive tackle in a strong offensive tackle draft. It just doesn't make sense to me. I would be shocked. I think quarterback's their first pick. I think there's a lot of smoke screens that come out this time of year, and teams are jockeying with each other to try not to have somebody hop over them for the prospect they prefer. I do think they value a lot of these offensive tackles, and I definitely think they take one in round one, maybe two. Um, but I would be surprised to see them trade up for a first round pick, especially after you traded Laramie Tunsil. Why would you trade Laramie Tunsil to trade up for a guy who you hope is as good as Laramie Tunsil? I would have a lot of questions for Chris Greer, Brian Flores if that's what they did tonight. Um, let's see. Um, I have. Are you? Let's see. Is the organization ready for fan backlash if they don't take Tua? And do you think if the Dolphins don't trade up, they still pick Tua? Okay, I'll answer both of those. Dolphins fan base is going to erupt if they don't take Tua, and I think they'd erupt even more if they traded up for an offensive tackle. I think they would love to stay at 5, and I think a lot of the rumors you're hearing and a lot of the bouncing back and forth is coming from trying to create an area where the Chargers don't jump over you for your guy, whether that's Tua or Herbert. I believe that that's what this is. So I think they would love to stay at 5, but it's got to take a lot of guts to hope that your quarterback falls to you. Typically, your quarterback doesn't fall to you. This situation is different because there's a lot of injury history, but I'm eager to see what decision Chris Greer makes on that. I'm 50-50 on whether they stay or they move up. Any word on Miami potentially trading for Trent Williams? I wouldn't count on it. I've heard the Browns heavy in that. I think the Dolphins want to get younger at tackle. If they miss out on one of the big four, maybe you see them get into that, or if the price drops. But I wouldn't consider them a favorite or anything by this stretch. Um, let's see. Who's the player who is free falling that you believe will be a good player? And this is Hofswell. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Who is the player who is falling? See, a lot of times we see media mock drafts, and I'm part of it, and we assume players are falling or rising. But when I talk to NFL teams, they'll tell me, "Oh, that guy was a first-round pick 2 or 3 months ago," or "That guy was a third-round pick, and everybody mocked him in the first." So I don't know about I guess the rising or falling. But I do think that you keep an eye on small school guys and guys who have injury histories. I think those are guys who may fall in this draft, and if a team feels comfortable in those areas, they can take a swing and be successful there. So that's my thoughts. Excuse me. I got a couple questions. Gut feel at 5. I've said it from the jump. My gut feels Tua. Tua no matter what. In fact, just for you guys, I wrote this piece of paper in honor of draft day. Hope you guys can see it. Right after the combine, when I got back home, wrote Tua no matter what on this sheet of paper on March 1st, and just put it away. I haven't changed my opinion from that. I could be wrong, but I think Tua's the guy. And I'm sticking with it. I'm not changing it, because I hear something different on draft day. So yeah. Let's see. What's your take on Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I'm gonna take one or two more questions and I'll jump out. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is one of my favorite running backs in this draft. I think that he can legitimately be an Austin Eckler type player. For those of you guys who don't recognize the name, he's a guy who was an undrafted free agent, smaller back, but he's with the Chargers and he made the Pro Bowl last year and essentially made sure Melvin Gordon didn't come back because he had such a heck of a year. I think he's a guy who probably is going to need a duo system, he's probably not going to be a 25, 30 carry a game guy. I think he can be a 15 carry guy and a 7 or 8 catch guy. Maybe sort of like a mini Alvin Kamara style player, and I think he's going to be extremely effective in this league. So I would love to see him as a pairing with Jordan Howard. Really, any of these top 4 or 5 backs. And let's see. Um, I answered this a little bit before. I do think that the Dolphins have done a really good job disguising their picks. Handling smokescreen season well. I just think that they've really helped confusing people, and that's probably kept the Chargers at bay, which is their hope. So this is the last one I'll answer, and I'll go ahead and head out. Jose says if we move to 3 and keep the 5, thoughts on Simmons and Tua, quarterback for defense. I know this had been kind of speculated. I think I actually heard this from a personnel guy a week ago, and I was like, I don't think this is feasible. And then I think Peter Schrager kind of laid it out for a lot of people on Good Morning Football, and then ultimately when the rumors started coming up that the Dolphins were talking to the Lions at 3, that was one thing that's considered. I would be hard pressed to see the Lions jump that far back, to 18. I know 18, 26, and 39 is enticing. But I think the Lions are in win now mode, and I think they want a difference maker. So I don't see them trading back in that realm. But if they were able to move and get 3 and 5, Chris Greer deserves a lot of credit. But if they do that, I think it would be an offensive lineman. I think it would be a quarterback and offensive lineman. Simmons is a heck of a player, but I think they need offensive line help, and this tackle class is incredible. So that's just my thoughts on what I think would happen in that situation. So. Thank you guys. We have a little over 5 hours until the start of draft day. I'm going to get ready. And thank you guys for joining me. And we'll probably do something next week to wrap up the draft and take all your questions on what the Dolphins did and did do. So until next time.